include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody there under the great blue vault of the African winter sky. We are hoping to find lots of interesting things this afternoon. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
You are live.
My name is James Henry, and it is wonderful to be here with you, as always, from the northeast corner of the world's most beautiful country. Fergus is on camera today. Hello, Fergus.
Hello.
Yes, there is Fergus. On the other vehicle is Tristan, and he is being filmed, of course, by Sebastian. And then, oh no, it's only the two of us today. Jamie left. She's going to Kenya. And yes, it is a slightly sad feeling, that I must say. We might be having a feed from the morrow, but certainly changes afoot, as we have explained before. Not to worry, it's all very exciting, and, well, nothing's really going to change for you except for the introduction of a whole lot of new characters. Hashtag Safari Live is how you're going to get hold of us for the course of the afternoon. That, of course, is on Twitter, and only on Twitter. I think we're going to carry on now. Our plan is going to be to head towards those two leopards we had earlier today, Tamba and Thandi. Hopefully we'll be able to spend a bit of time with them before the game drives get going, and then we might go back a little bit later. So without further ado, let us continue. I'm told that it is about 22 degrees Celsius, which I think is 72, is it? 75 degrees Fahrenheit. 72. 72.22, there we go. Alright, let's head across to Tristan. I think he's also going far east, but it's for another kind of spotted cat.
Well, we are, James, and we just had an animal, but it seemed to have crept away, so I'm reversing a little bit. There we go. Some beautiful kudu. Now, hold on, Seb, let me just get back a little bit further. There we go. So we have a male kudu that's busy following a female at this stage, and it seems like that female might be in heat because you can sniffing along and trying to see what he can find. Now, before we get into our kudus and before we get in talking about wildlife, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I have Sebastian, and we're going to probably have a wonderful afternoon. We're going to celebrate James Henry's last afternoon drive on Djuma for a little bit, so it's going to be an absolute pleasure to spend the afternoon in the company of him, as well as to be able to see if we can't find some fantastic wildlife. We're going to be heading to the east, the far east, and not when I mean in the globe, just to Cheetah Plains, and to go and try and see why it's called Cheetah Plains and see if the two Cheetah brothers are there. James said he had an update this morning that they did cross into Cheetah Plains again, so we're going to try and see if we can't get there. Now, Seb, let me try and get back a little bit so we can find these kudu again, because there's a beautiful male in amongst them with the most magnificent horns. Now, remember, this is an interactive safari, and so you, the viewers, are the most important in this whole process. And while I reverse, you can remember that if you have questions and you do want to ask anything, you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Now, oh, there we go, Seb. Now, hopefully he's going to stay there, because it really is so impressive when you see these big bulls. And look at those horns and that neck structure. He's got the big sort of muscles that protrude off of the neck. Massive set of horns as well. It really is amazing to see these guys. Kudu males have got to be one of my favorite antelope. I remember being a kid and going into the Kruger National Park with my grandfather, and I always used to get so excited when I saw a kudu bull because of just the size of their horns. I always used to think they looked so cool with those horns. It really is quite amazing how big they get. And I was saying the other day that their sort of record length for a set of kudu horns is 6'2". Now, can you imagine having a set of horns on top of the head of a kudu that is 6'2"? That's like me standing on top of that kudu's head, which would be quite sort of interesting, to say the least. But they are going to disappear into the thickets, which is pretty typical of kudu, but at least we had a nice visual of one. So I think onward and forward, Sebastian. We have a long way to travel this afternoon, and my earpiece is giving me a hard time, Sebastian. What should I do about this? Tape. You reckon? It's just sitting at a funny angle. There we go. Right, so my earpiece is sorted, we're ready to go. Sebastian is ready, he's all sorted, and so while we head towards the east, I believe James is going to do something similar and follow in behind us and also start making his way eastwards.
We are indeed making our way east, but we're going to do it via a slightly different route, so as to cover a little bit more ground. We might find an elephant or two on the way there. We might find a pride of lions no one discovered this morning. We might find, well, nothing. Who knows? I put my jersey on. It's quite chilly, I must say. I don't believe it's 22 degrees out here. There's a really nippy wind coming out of the southeast. The tail end of the cold front that has assailed us for the last 2 days or so. Organising my earpiece nicely. We'll keep going at a good speed because, as I said, what's going to happen, of course, is that everybody is going to start getting mobile from the lodges around here, and once they start getting mobile from the lodges, well, then there's going to be great busyness around all the high-profile sightings, and so we, who start sort of half an hour before everybody else, want to try and get down there early. Have half an hour to ourselves, and then we'll move away. Find a few birdies and trees and things on the way. Hello James, you're wondering what predators out here will leave no trace of a kill except a hyena. Even a hyena will leave a trace of a kill depending on what it is. I mean, they will, nothing can consume a buffalo completely. Very little can consume something the size of a wildebeest completely. Always the horns will be left over. So it really does depend on the size. I've seen an entire duiker devoured completely by a leopard, and although there were no remains of that kill left over, what there was left over, of course, was a lot of scat with the head in it. Very sad story of a house cat that belonged to my brother, and a dreadful story. There wasn't a feather left by the time she'd finished, but I guarantee you it came out in her scat. And so there really are very few, there is nothing that is completely digested by any of the animals out here. So hair is not digestible even by hyenas. I hope that answers your question. So even if a rabid pack of hyena killed a group of wildebeest, you'd find that still they'd leave the horns and they'd leave quite a lot of the hair as well. Let's head across to Tristan, who's managed to find a heartbeat.
We haven't just found one heartbeat, we have multiple heartbeats, because we have a sounder of warthogs. So it's a mother with her piglets, and I'm quite glad James said that no predator doesn't leave a trace, because that was my exact answer as well when Megan told me that James was answering that question. Most definitely no predators. There's always footprints or some sort of sign that there was a kill there. Now our warthogs are just feeding on the edge there, and I'm interested to know what they're busy eating, because they're kind of sort of on the grass edge, but there really isn't very nutritious grasses in that area. You can see it's quite flat. Now Seb and I were sitting here watching these warthogs for quite a while, and neither of us noticed that we have a rather large visitor right next to us. So there off to the side, hello, is a big bull giraffe. Now this bull giraffe has been just sitting there watching us, and I promise you that neither of us saw it until just before you came across to us. So it just goes to show you how sometimes things can actually blend in very, very well, and when you focus on one animal you can sometimes completely miss that another one is there. Now this is a really large male. We know he's a male because of lots of scars on his face and lots of bony bumps, as well as those thick ossicones on top. You can see that they are balding on top and very, very thick, and a female that would be a lot narrower. Now he's just watching us at the moment, and I have a feeling the reason why he's here is because of a certain type of tree. Now Seb, if you can show this tree just in front to the right of the giraffe. There we go. You see this tree just on the right hand side of the giraffe, that quite sort of tall green tree? Now that tree is called a tumbuti, and that tumbuti tree has a latex in the leaves, a milky latex, and for us as people, it is quite a toxic latex. It's not very good for us. It makes our stomachs quite ill, and you can actually even die if you ingest too much of it. But the giraffe will use that as basically a natural way of getting rid of stuff that they're battling to process. So if they've got bits of sort of fibrous leaves or bits of branches that are not digesting well, they eat that, and it helps them just to go to the toilet and basically get rid of all the stuff that they're battling with. So it really is a clever system, and often you'll find giraffe around these sort of tambuti thickets at this time of the day when it's still hot, because the tambutis also create a really nice shaded area, so the perfect place for a bull giraffe to spend his days during the warmer parts. But you can see how well that camouflage works. Watch as this giraffe starts walking behind the greenery. That broken sort of pattern that they have will immediately start to blend in. You can see on the sort of body area and the neck where it is behind the trees that it becomes a lot harder to actually make out that giraffe shape behind there. So their camouflage actually works very, very well, even though they are such big, tall animals. So, Eclair, you're asking how the giraffe here in Djuma differ from the ones in the Mara where Brent is. Well, they are basically completely different species. So here we have the southern giraffe, which is the one that occurs throughout sort of southern Africa, and is the only species that we get. Whereas in Kenya and in the Masai Mara, we're going to get the Maasai giraffe, and there's a number of other species out that way as well. There's the reticulated, the Rothschild, who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting one more as well. And so they have a bit of a different sort of patterning to them. All of these giraffe, that's how you sort of identify them. They've got very different sort of patterns on their coats. I know that the reticulated has got these very, very square block-like patterns, whereas our southern giraffe is very irregular. The Maasai almost looks like it's got fingers coming off of their spots, so it's like a riverbed from the air where you've got these sort of fingers going out into a delta. That's how it looks to me. So they have different sort of coat patterns, and that's the major differences between them. In terms of height and size, they're all pretty similar. There's not too much variation in terms of the size of them. But unfortunately, our giraffe has now disappeared completely out of view. I'm going to try go forward and see if we can't see him again. If he's dropped down towards the Mulawati, it's going to be quite tough to see him, but let's have a look quickly. He's still there with the warthogs, and you'll be able to get a really nice sort of view now of just how big warthogs are in comparison to a giraffe. Oof, there's a pity there's a bush in here. Seb, can you see the warthogs and the giraffe's legs there? So you can see the little warthog in the bush between the sort of trees. There's where the warthogs are feeding, and then just to the right you can see the giraffe's leg. So that gives you an idea of just how tall a giraffe is in relation to a baby warthog. There's the giraffe's bum and tail, and down there way below is the warthogs. Now the warthogs will be very clever to stay with this giraffe, because the giraffe is being so tall is often going to spot predators a lot easier than what these warthogs are right down on the ground. And so they can almost use the giraffe like an early warning system. When the giraffe becomes alert and starts to move off, they know that they can move off as well. And we've got a third species that's joined now. We've got a red-billed oxpecker in there as well. Now, we were talking about giraffe and the difference between them and the Mara, and Brent Leo Smith is 2,500 miles away with varying descriptions of antelope, and I'm sure he'll be able to give us a better idea of what the giraffe over there look like.
In the Masai Mara in Kenya. Welcome to the Sunset Safari. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Dangerous Dave. And you might wonder, why are you so nervous, Impala? Well, remember, this is live, so we can't guess what's going to happen next, or we can guess, but we can never predict 100%. So this morning, just after drive, we happened to find a beautiful female cheetah, and I found out she is one of Kenya's daughters, and we found her again. She's not in the best spot, and she was showing interest. In how we found her is I noticed those impala staring quite, well, actually it was the topi that gave her away. He was staring into the grass, and we just managed to spot her head, and now she's laying down. Not the best view. There we go. Dave says we've got tail flicking, but you have to believe us, that is a female cheetah. So as far as I know, her name at the moment, she hasn't been named officially, is Kenya's daughter. Now if I remember correctly, Kakenya means the early dawn or beautiful dawn in Swahili. But obviously that's her mother's name, and her mother resides further to the south and west, or east of us, towards the Tanzanian border. So obviously she's become independent, and she's moved into an area that there are not normally a lot of cheetah. She's up. Oh, yay. Exciting times. And there's a very good reason that there's not a lot of cheetah in this particular area, and that is because of the high density of lions and hyenas. This is on the edge of the North Clan's territory, and as I said this morning, there are over 90 or 80, close to 90 individuals in that clan of hyenas. There she is, isn't she gorgeous? Now, you have to believe us because she stood up. She is just not a tail flicking in the long grass. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you want to ask us any questions about this gorgeous girl and what she might get up to on the sunset safari. And she looked like she had had a meal when we saw her earlier today. And I'm wondering, she is looking quite intently at those impala. And there is a bit of long grass to provide her a bit of cover. And that should help her in her hunting. And I think she would prefer to find some Tommies, but I think maybe she's eaten or chased all the Tommies that are normally around here. And of course, Tommies is a Thompson's gazelle. Oh, she's beautiful. Yeah, she's sneaking higher up onto the termite mound, just to give herself a good view. Now, from that pose, it seems she's given up on the impala, so she's looking back towards the clan lands, as I call them, and there tend to be a few more Tommies there. Oh, no, she is looking back towards the north now. Well, hi Valerie. Daddy, I'm also very excited to see Cheetah in the Mara. Now, this is the cheetah we've probably spent the most amount of time with. We've seen her fail on about 3 or 4 hunts now, and we're hoping that our patience is going to pay off, and we will get to see her successfully catch something. Well, not so happy for if you're a Thompson's gazelle, but very happy if you're a cheetah. Now, of course, she's got to be quite quick in terms of silencing that gazelle in this area. As I said, there's 80-odd hyenas that call this particular area home, so she better be careful if she doesn't want to lose her meal. Now, the reason we are not closer to her at the moment, this is in what we call a high-use zone, so we don't off-road here, and she's right on the edge of a very sticky marsh, and I said it did rain last night, so we have to be a little careful, and I'm quite sure she's going to move. Well, I don't know which way she's going to move, but either way she moves is going to be fine for us, and we should be able to get a little bit closer to her. Now, hello David. David is wondering, is impala a cheetah's main prey in the Mara? It is not at all, David. It is actually the Thompson's gazelle. Or as we affectionately call them, Tommies. They are a cheetah's main prey in this part of the world. There we go. The impala have spotted her. You can just hear them snorting in the distance. Now, she is quite a young female. Recently independent. So she's still learning the ropes of being out on her own. Now, I'm going to stay right with her and see what she might get up to next. But while she's resting atop a termite mound, we're going to zoom all the way back to South Africa. And Tristan, who's with a spiral horned, I don't know.
Indeed, Brent, we're here with something that Brent won't unfortunately see up there. Nyalas don't occur in the Masai Mara, as do many of the animals up there don't occur here. But this is one of the South African Sabi Sand specials, and are really one of the most beautiful antelope. And it's a a bachelor herd of males that is slowly sauntering across the road. There are some of the young bulls in front, and now there's some of the bigger guys coming back, and there's one right at the back that is massive. He's going to come out shortly. He's got huge horns and big shoulders. They are spectacular looking creatures with this long shaggy coat and a chocolate brown, and then I love the fact that they have those lighter coloured legs halfway up and then to the hooves. It's really quite cool to see. Now that's not just there for looks and to impress the ladies, that is all there for camouflage. So these guys spend most of their time in the thickets, much like the kudu do, but when they are in thickets, that does not mean that their legs are not still visible in the grass, because you can see, look at the color of the grass and see how well those legs match the grass color. Absolutely perfectly. So even if they're standing in a shady thicket and that dark brown is camouflaging well, those light brown legs are still camouflaging in the grass and don't give their presence away, and it allows for these guys to actually stay very well hidden. But are they not the most beautiful animal? I find them almost exotic looking. They remind me a little bit of the bongos and varying other antelopes. Now they are crossing behind me, so I'm going to try and see if I can't just turn around quickly. The light is not ideal, but let's try, Seb. We've almost got the sun directly in our eyes at this stage. And it's quite nice with Nyala, especially in late afternoon, if you can get a bit of sun on them from the behind, because they have these long, furry, shaggy coats, and then it catches all those golden rays, particularly on the back and the neck area. And you'll find with these guys, it's quite strange when you see them come across females, because they go through this very sort of intricate dance that they go around one another, and they'll display using this long hair. So it's called philo-erection, and the hair will stand up on the back end and on the neck area and on the stomach, and it makes that Nyala appear about 30% larger. And once it appears like that, it then hunches it back, makes itself big, and they walk around one another, and each one will just analyze the other one, and then you'll find a situation where one will realize, okay, well, I'm not quite as big as this one, and back off and leave. And that's when you then get the sort of winner of the contest. If they are very evenly matched, then they will fight and clash horns, but they try and avoid it as much as possible, because if you look at a Nyala's horns, unlike things like impalas or Deka, Steenbok, any of those animals that have ridges on their horns, these guys' horns are completely smooth, and so they don't actually purchase very well against one another, and there's often a lot of slipping, which can lead to fatal stabbings in the neck and face area. And so that's why this dance-off is a far better way of establishing dominance than having to actually clash and hurt one another. At the end of the day, they don't want to eat one another, so don't want to kill each other. They rather just want to prove that they are the biggest and most strongest around the females. But you can see how well their camouflage works in those brown sort of coloration in that thicket. Once they go into the shade, they become almost invisible to the eye. It really is very, very cool to see. Now, Nyala gone, Seb. I think let's carry on. I was hoping to come down to Twin Dams in this beautiful sort of afternoon with this nice warm sunshine, and that the Ellies were going to be out and about after this sort of cold front that we had. But alas, no Ellies at this stage. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some Ellies around Chitwa Dam, so when James goes a little bit further to the east, maybe he'll get lucky with some elephants over there. You've always got to keep a good eye out when you're around Twin Dams, because you never know the sort of little cubs, the royals, they often hang around here, so you've got to kind of keep an eye out. Right, now I believe James has overtaken me and has already gotten to the east and hasn't found an elephant, but he's found another cat with spots.
Well, I've been told that the cat with spoon. Okay, sit still everybody. She's very, very close. So close, in fact. Focus, sit very nice and still there. Do not jiggle about too much. She's much closer than I thought she was going to be. I don't know where her son is. I'm actually just going to move slightly further away. I don't think it's very nice to be that close to her. She might take offense at us. Unfortunately, we cannot turn this car very well because it has the turning circle of a battleship. There we go. How's that? There we are. Hello, madam. Where is your son? I can't see the sun. What grief. Now, just just to keep you posted, we are still working on these new cameras, and so I know it looks like you're staring into a black hole, but that will change. We've just got to fiddle a few settings, and with any luck, out of the shadows will emerge the beautiful picture of, oh, look at that. There she is. She even opened her eyes on time. Gorgeous. That is Thandi, everybody. Thandi killed a fully grown male impala the other day. It is now starting to smell quite rancid. It's just behind where she's lying. She doesn't mind the smell. To her, I suppose, smells like the Sunday roast just about to come out of the oven. Oh, I do like the way you've done the colour there, Fergus. I think it looks rather good. Can you see her son anywhere, Fergus? Do you see him?
No son.
See him nowhere here. If you have just joined us, this is Thandi. Thandi must be 10 by now. I'm not sure exactly when her birthday is. And she has a son called Tamba, who's 8 or 9 months old. Tamba means rock, and that's because he was born apparently under a rock, and it was chosen by our viewers in the United States, actually, during the Nat Geo TV shows, Nat Geo Wild TV shows that we did earlier this year in January and February. And she's called Thandi, which means, well, basically just means love. You'll get all sorts of newfangled names like she who is loved, the beloved one, she who has been beloved for all time, but it just means love, basically. And what a pretty name it is. Now, she's panting like that, certainly not because it's hot. She's panting like this because she's been eating a huge amount. And like I say, the little twitches and changes that you see with the camera are simply a function of the fact that we're still getting the right colour profiles and sorting out the lighting and that sort of thing. So do bear with us on that, and thank you for bearing with us on it. She's very sleepy. We might not spend a huge amount of time here. I would like to spend some time and then maybe try and come back a bit later. But the thing is with these cats is that they're so popular to so many people that the sighting might fill up a bit later. Anyway, I think for now we'll just enjoy her, even though she's not doing a great deal. She's not swinging from the tree. And then we'll try and find her son at some stage as well. Well, that's really useful. Thank you so much for lying in the grass and doing absolutely nothing. I wonder if we shouldn't do a little loop around and see if we can't find Tamba. Right, well, let's just go around the corner. Right, while we search for him, I believe Tristan has managed to successfully find himself some... Never mind, some elephants.
Well, James, don't worry, I've had a few senior moments as well where I've forgotten what's going on, so don't worry, it does happen. But yes, we found ourselves some elephants. So as predicted, the elephants will be coming out in this weather. There will be this warm weather, means that the elephants are definitely going to be moving, and this herd of elephants is going to be going straight to Chitwa Dam as we speak. We're sitting on the main road just north of the dam. The dam is probably, I would say, not even 600 meters to our south, maybe 700 meters to the south, somewhere around there. And these elephants are slowly going to feed their way down there. So I would imagine by an hour's time, they would probably be down by the water. And it looks like quite a nice sized herd. I can see elephants spread throughout this area, which is really cool. So it's going to be very pretty if they do start making their way down towards the dam area. It should be a very, very pretty scene. Now you can see we do have a telephone pole there, and that's just the electrical lines that runs for the lodges, so I do apologize about those. Until such time as the elephants actually cross over, we're going to have those poles around, I'm afraid. So they're just sitting in between all of it at the moment. But what we've got is, by the looks of it, is, like I say, quite a big herd. I'm trying to see if it could be Fang's herd. It's not. I don't think so, though. I don't see a couple of the characters that I recognize from Fang's herd. There's a particular female with quite long, straight tusks, and then there's another one that's got one shorter tusk, and then obviously Fang herself. So I was just checking just to see, but we're really on the opposite side of where Fang was last seen. Now I've got one youngster coming across the road here, Seb, which is quite nice as well. I wonder if it's going to come and say hello. No, just straight across, I think. Now, there's no better traffic than that. So, oh well, you say you love Ellies. Well, oh well, what's there not to love? Elephants are the most magical creatures. I really love them too. They provide us with hours of entertainment. They've got so many complex systems that they sort of have within the herd structure, intelligent, incredible senses, and so they really are a special animal to spend time with. Like I say, I've got a very soft spot for elephants, and they endear themselves to us in so many ways. It is always fantastic to see them like this. Hello, girl. So that's a very big female now. I wonder if she's not maybe the matriarchal female. She's off right in the front of the herd, and you can see she's quite large in comparison to the other one that was behind her. Now we're going to get a naughty young male coming across shortly. Hello, boy. I always love how they have this sort of bounce when they come down a hill. There's the ears kind of flap and the shoulders go, and it almost looks like they're very chuffed with themselves as they start moving. And get the impression that sometimes it's a bit of a sort of series of miscalculated falls as they go forward, because they kind of bounce around and it doesn't look as though they're very sort of stable on their feet as they do it. It almost looks like they're about to fall at any second, so it almost looks like they're tripping their way forward. Now it does look like there's going to be a small baby that might come out shortly. It's in the thickets at the moment, but it's slowly starting to head towards the road, and so I'm sure we're going to see it arriving on the road shortly. But it is a large herd. They stretch quite far down, sort of where the end of the road and where it dips there. I can already see elephants down that way. Now here comes our little baby, Seb. Hopefully it's going to come out of the thicket. It's just on the other side of this tree. I don't know if you can see it there. There we are. Hello, little one. You've got character. Are you going to come charge us? Yes, you are. Hello. Baby elephants have got to be the cutest things. They have these ears out and they run around and chase things, and if there's birds around they get chased, and you can see it's trying to make itself look bigger to us now. It lifts its head, ears out, and that's all because mom does that when it sees something that it doesn't like. So if mom sees a lion or a leopard, it'll do the same thing, and so the baby is just mimicking its mother and trying to show us how big and strong it is and how dangerous it can be. So machine gun nest, you're wondering if elephants make the ground shake. Well, no, actually they don't. Elephants have an incredible foot. So they they stand on this sort of fatty pad that underneath the toes of and the bones of the actual foot itself, and that almost acts like a big soft cushion pad, much like our shoes do. And so as they walk, they're actually standing, and it causes a sort of compression. When they do run, you can hear a sort of crashing of bushes, but there's actually very little vibration that comes through the land itself. It's also because elephants can't really jump, and so their feet don't go hugely off the ground when they're running. It's almost they kind of shuffle their way along, and so you don't get too much of a tremor. What does actually make things sort of shudder and shake is big herds of buffalo. They cause a lot more of a vibration through the land than what you'll feel with elephants when they're walking around or running around. So there's not too much of that. It's only really when you are very close that you hear them crashing around more than anything else. Now, Seb, I'm going to try to go forward so we can see this little baby, because it is so cute trying to feed off this long grass. We're just going to try and ease our way forward so that we've got a nice clear view of this little one. Oh no, don't run away. It's lost its nerve a little bit. It's going back to mom now. There we go. Okay, we just want to come and see you, that's all. So Susie, you say this little one is a cutie pie. Yes, it is. It is baby elephants have this ability to just look very cute, even though they're all awkward with these sort of trunks that they can't really control and massive ears and sort of stumbling around. Oh, yes, you are very big. Be careful, everybody. We've got an elephant that's shaking its head. We need to be very aware. I'm sure he feels like he's massive and is about 20 foot tall. But they have this ability just to kind of melt one's heart and sort of get into one's sort of psyche. I don't know why. They're just the most amazing creatures, and it's probably just because of how sort of playful they can be and how much they move around. Now, even though we do have elephants here, there is something that's very pretty sitting just in front of us here. Zeb, can you see on the front of the car on the edge of the road here, there's some butterflies on a purple flower. And just in this beautiful afternoon light, it is very pretty. And that's the thing, sometimes even when you're with these big elephants, sitting and watching beautiful butterflies on the edge of the road in contrast to those elephants is really quite something. So there we go. You can see the African monarch butterfly on a purple panweed, and there it goes. Oh, here comes the naughty one. Butterflies are about to get evicted from their particular flower. But like I say, it's in stark contrast from this big, heavy-set, solid animal to these tiny little flimsy butterflies. Very cool scene. Right. Well, James is with the leopard, we're with elephants, and Brent is still with his cheetah, and it's a successful start to the afternoon.
So, this beautiful female cheetah has not yet moved off the top of her termite mound. Now, I said Kakenya was her mother's name, and currently she's called Kakenya's daughter. I'm not sure whether it's Kakenya's daughter 1 or 2. She raised 2 cubs successfully to adulthood, and it means early morning in Maasai is her mother's name. So maybe we should call her Evening. I don't know. No, I'm only joking. I'm sure she probably does have a name, but we just have to wait for the researchers to get back. But she has been spending a lot of time in this area, not too far from camp. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you've got any questions for us. I'm just doing a quick perusal over the plain with my binoculars to see if there's any Thompson's gazelles or impalas or Grant's gazelles that might perk her interest. Doesn't look that way off to the north and west, so let's check down south. Not that I can see. I can see some giraffe and elephant, but really far in the distance. The only things I can see at the moment. It was cold this morning. It's actually warmed up a lot already today. Hi Alexis, who's 6 years old. Alexis would like to know, why do cheetahs only run at top speed for such a short time? Well, Alexis, it's because they are built like that. They are unable to keep up that speed for a long time. Basically, their body would overheat and they would be actually possibly even die. And they don't want to extend all their energy, especially with cheetah, because often their kills are stolen by lions and hyenas, so they need a little bit left in reserve to get away from other threats. But mostly it's because, oh, look at that, trying to get away from a few of those biting flies. Dave and I have actually, while you haven't been with us, we've been slapping ourselves silly trying to get rid of the flies today. So that little bit of rain last night has caused an explosion of flies today. And I think if we've got it bad, I hate to think how bad that poor cheetah's got it. You can see her ears are constantly flicking, tail flicking as well. But hi, Robin from Australia. Robin would like to know how many cubs do cheetah normally have at a single time? Well, Robin, it all actually depends. They actually have more cubs than the other big cats. Sort of up to sort of 6 at a time, but normally 4 or 5 is quite common, specifically in this area. Now, the reason they have more cubs than lion or leopard is because they have a much higher mortality rate. So it's very, very seldom for a full litter of cubs to survive to adulthood. Most of them are killed within their first year of life. Oh, is she up? No, still there, still swatting at flies. Now, it is getting towards that time of the day where she might get up and start moving again, and that's why we're not moving anywhere. She is quite alert. She's watching what's going on around her, and oh, Davy, can you get that behind us, right there, behind you actually? Yeah, it's the hippopotamus. Oh, it's just disappearing. There we go. There's a hippo. Oh, looks like a hippo bull walking up the Mara River. Decided his spot wasn't good enough. He's going to go try find a better one. I've seen some big crocs in this little stretch, but they're none out of the water today. You can hear some hippos though in the distance. So this little spot here, this little open patch where you can see quite a lot of animals have come down before. You can see, there we go. The hippos obviously use it to come in and out of the water on their way grazing, but also when the migration is here. Apparently this is one of the big herds of zebras' favourite spots to drink, and its name is Majia Punda, which basically means zebra water, or the spot where the zebras drink. Now, it's one of the few areas in this part of the park where we can get nice and close to the edge of the Mara River. But we're going to keep sitting here with this gorgeous female cheetah. I'm pretty sure she will get moving at some point. So patience is the most important tool when you're out here. And we have seen her miss 3 times, so maybe 4th time's the charm. But speaking of spotted cats, James is with one that the cheetah would not want to run into.
Now, yes, I don't suppose a cheetah would like to run into this one. You can hear she's listening to the sound of my voice. She did lift her head briefly. I thought I heard Tamba eating on the carcass, but that has since ceased. So she hasn't done a great deal since you last left here. I did a big circuit around the place. Now, while she sleeps, we are going to move together, you and I, and we're just going to go round to the carcass, and I'll show it to you where it is. Some of you may well not have been with us during the course of this morning, so we'll just drive around the side and see if maybe he isn't lying next to the carcass. I did a whole loop around here and I couldn't find him anywhere, but he must be here. Hungry little hunter that he is, all the time. Young males, you know, always in need of some sort of sustenance. I just wish he'd put it up in the tree, because then it would be very nice with the light, especially a little bit later on in the afternoon. No, he's not there, but the carcass is there. He may well have broken off a piece and started eating it somewhere else, I suppose. But there is what is starting to niff slightly. Let me just keep quiet for a second. I thought I heard the chewing of bone, but perchance I was mistaken. Yes, some prime rib for young Tamba and his mother this evening. Delicious for them. Maybe we'll just do a little turn around the termite mound, then we'll go back to where she is, and then I think we probably will head out and see if perhaps some elephants don't pop down to the Chitwa Dam, and then we'll try and come back here later depending on how busy things get. Oh dear, I see I've left my big jacket behind. It's alright, Fergus, I know you're worried about me, but I'll be okay. I'm so tough. I'm so unbelievably tough. Now, I think I was hearing things. I accused Fergus of being stone deaf, but I think it may be that my ears were hallucinating. Can an ear hallucinate? I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll have one last look at her and then we'll press on and see what else is around the place. Hello, Mom. Going to get up? No. Is that dreadful for you, Fergus, or shall I?
No, it's pretty good. Roll us back a meter.
Roll back a meter. There we go. Yes, her belly is very full. I don't think she's going to be too concerned about trying to find food this afternoon. Alright, Tristan is still with his elephants. We are going to press on from here and see what else Chitwa has to offer, and we'll probably come back a little bit later.
Well, we are with our elephants, but they are disappearing into a horrible thicket at the moment, so I don't think we're going to be able to stay with them too long. And hopefully James, being on Chitwa, can go down and see them at the dam, because we can't follow them. We only have traversing with one vehicle on Chitwa at a time, so we'll leave those for James as they disappear down into the bush. Now, unfortunately, it sounds like our cheetah have also crossed north, which means that they've gone into Nkoro. So our plans are not quite working out at this stage. We're going to have to try and see if we can't find something else. So I'm going to slowly head down towards Cheetah Plains anyway and see, maybe we get lucky, maybe those cheetah turn and come back our way. I'm not very hopeful, but let's see how we go. It's a pity our elephants crossed south, because it would have been nice to follow them down to the water. I think they're going to have a really good drink, but like I say, James is there, and so I'm sure he can. We are going to go through a very bad signal area now as well. We're probably might have a bit of a picture breakup, so I do apologize about that. The Mulawanini is gremlin filled at the best of times. To do that, I believe James is going to take from us anyway and head towards the elephants, and our left is Leopard.
I'm told the elephants are coming towards the Chitwa Dam, which is over there, and Tristan was the other side of that. And so with any luck, as we get there, they too will get there, and we will have a wonderful sighting of them. I'm just going to keep my eyes peeled on the tops of the trees here, because old Tumba is a bit of a wanderer. It's not impossible that he will try and sort of move away from his mother for the afternoon and enjoy the comforts of a soft marula branch or two. I would have thought it unlikely, though. Anyway, we'll see. Now, the Chitwa Lodge is just over there, the dam is in front, and Meg, I'm just going to tell you that if we do go down towards the dam from the side, we may well lose signal, so just keep an eye on the signal from about here. We can go across to Jamie on bushwalk. Oh no, we can't. She's not here, is she? I knew that. I was just joking. There are some Nyalas. I think we will have a look at them. Now, there are lots of Nyalas around here, and I don't know if you were with us this morning, but we had quite a nice sighting of a little baby Nyala that was lonely, and it didn't have any friends, and it had lost its family, and it went and made some friends with some bachelor impala who were quite kind to it. Well, they were kind in that they didn't try and eat it or chase it away. So it was unlikely ever that they were going to eat it, of course. They're herbivores. And there they are. One, two, three, four, five, six in the first group, and behind even more. Nyala Bonanza. That might be our little one in the middle. I hope it is. A nice big bull the other side, to the left, right, sorry, to the right. It's the one on the other side where you don't wear your watch. There he is there, wagging his tail, not because he's necessarily happy, although on an afternoon like this, why wouldn't he be? But perhaps to chase off the flies. And again, if you were a fly, this would be a good afternoon. And there's another female coming from behind. It's a very large group. There we go, 2 more. And although, as I've said to you before, it looks like they're grazing, they are not. They are browsing, but they're browsing forbs and things, which are not grasses, obviously. Now his tail is up there. There's obviously another male around here. Somewhere. I think that's why he was holding his tail up in display. Yeah, and his white mantle is up, so he's got his, literally got his hackles up a little bit. Not sure why that should be. There could easily be something around here that's giving him some source of irritation. Yes, I think he's just had a fight with his lady friend. You see, he's leaving. He said, "That's it. I'm going away. I have no more time for you at all. You look after the kids. I'm off to the pub." Now he's feeling guilty about being nasty, so he's pretending to be hungry. It's very complicated psychology Nyala have, of course. Mirrors our own. And then to the right, the little ones were playing. There might still be, in fact. Yes, there's a little bit of play going on there under the trees. Not renowned, Nyala, for their playing behaviour, or, great examples of frolicking across the plains. But even the Nyala will engage in playing sometimes. For how else is a hierarchy to be determined? How else are the muscles to form? And how else are the nerves to reach their ends? Now, we have a question from somebody called AKAPT, Akapt. Shall we call him Akapt? I think that's quite a nice name. Akapt, you want to know if a group of Nyalas is called a herd. Biologically speaking, Akapt, if you are reading a book or, that is based on actual biology and not sort of fancy English, well, what we have is definitely they would be called a herd. I'm going to get onto this later. Tristan's got something quite interesting.
We do indeed. We've got a hornbill that is busy swallowing a scorpion. So you can see, look how it mangled the tail, got rid of the tulsin or the stinger that was able to inject venom, and it is now swallowing it down whole. And it seems like it's having a bit of a sort of problem. Maybe the pincers have got hold of its throat because it's battling to swallow it from there. But I don't think so. I think that scorpion is all likelihood dead. They use those big beaks and they throw it around and they crush the exoskeleton before they actually put them in. And it's really, really interesting to watch hornbills eat scorpions, because what they will do is that in the sort of when they're teaching their young ones, often they'll show them and they'll pick off the pincers first, and then they pick off the tulsin first, and that then teaches the young ones that they must be careful of the tail. And then they will leave the pincers on, and the pincers then get the little young ones, and they realize that they've got to be careful of those. Then once that's done, then they'll leave the tail on, and then they kind of get used to that, and eventually they upgrade to be able to then feed off scorpions like this. But there we go, all done. Was that not that tasty? You don't look very happy with your meal, Mr. Hornbill. Or is it still in your throat? Now, this is the second hornbill that we've watched have a bit of difficulty this week when it comes to meals. Ooh, it doesn't look like it went down the right way. You know when you sometimes swallow food and it feels like it goes down the wrong sort of pipe? That's what it feels like now with this hornbill. He's almost just looking at the ground as if to say, oh, this is not going down well at all. Now, the scorpion that it managed to grab is called a Vitatus. Have you regurgitated it? No. There we go. It's down now. Well done. Oh, and this light is so nice just to sort of highlight that beak. No, just trying to get it all the way down before I'm sure it will then fly off. You'll find they'll fly up onto a branch and go and clean their beak after dealing with scorpions because they break them up so much they get bits all over their beak and then they've got to try and clean everything up. But so interesting to watch them deal with it. Now, unfortunately, we got you a little bit late and so we didn't get to see the whole process from start to finish, but definitely is amazing that they can subdue those scorpions. Now, if that scorpion had to hit one of us, it wouldn't kill us, but it would be quite painful. The Tartus has got a nasty little sort of envenomation on it, and it's not very pleasant. It will get quite sore and swollen, and be a little bit worse than a wasp sting, so it's not very comfortable. But for a hornbill, no problem whatsoever. You've got a long beak like that, means that you can get to that sort of Tulsen long before it gets anywhere near your face or your feathers, and it means that they can then deal with it and actually feed off it. Very, very cool. So, David, you're wondering if the venom affects them after he eats it. Well, no. They've got a strong enough stomach acid that they can deal with that. And also remember, the venom is injected from the Tulsen, which is that small little hook-like structure at the end of the tail. From there, it is then, that's normally broken off and left somewhere on the road, and they then feed off the rest as they go. Yes, hello. Wait, picking up a few little scraps of what's kind of been broken off the scorpion as it's been eating it. Oh, there we go. Where are you off to? They're such comical looking birds as well. They seem to have sort of this comical face, and they do actually have really beautiful markings. Where are you running to? Seb, he's giving you a tough time. He keeps running away. What are you thinking? So Tesla, who's age 6. Well, hello Tesla, glad to see you watching again today. I always enjoy Tesla's questions. She always thinks of very interesting things. She wants to know whether or not the hornbill's beak has teeth. Well, Tesla, no, it doesn't have teeth. It's got a very sort of hard edge to it, which helps to be able to break things, like that hard exoskeleton from the scorpion, but no teeth. And that's why it sometimes struggles to be able to actually swallow the scorpion, because the scorpion is very, very big and the teeth don't break it up, and so it makes it a lot harder to be able to actually eat it. Now, unfortunately, another vehicle came past, so our hornbill flew away, but it was still very cool to see. Right, now our hornbill is gone and we are going to carry on eastwards and see if by some miracle our 2 cheetah brothers are somewhere around. And while we do that, I believe James has got down to Chitwa Dam, and hopefully his Ellie should arrive soon.
I am indeed waiting here for the elephants, and just trying to keep an eye on what's coming down through the clearings. At the moment there are hippopotami here. The light is gorgeous and very pretty around this area. I have had reports that those elephants are coming this way, but at the moment I do not see them. In fact, I have no indication of where on earth they are. But there was a report on the radio that they were coming this way. So that's encouraging, at least. I think we're just going to sit here and enjoy what's happening around here for now. While I stare through my binoculars up towards the top of the clearing there. I can see lots of Nyalas. Can you see the Nyalas, Fergus? They're way up to the other side of the clearing there, given that the hippopotami are not doing anything useful whatsoever. Let us look at the Nyalas. Nyalas is one of those satisfying words, everybody, that you should say every so often just to make yourself feel good. There are a few of them out here. Nyala is one of them. Ziziphus is another, when referring to the buffalo thorn, of course. Ziziphus, you should say it at least 3 times a day, I find. Ziziphus, there, that's my 3rd time. I won't say it again, unless I happen to want to tell you a story about one. So that's another one. And then the other one I find is the word spider. But you mustn't say it like you would normally say spider, or where perhaps you're German, you might say spider. You need to say it in a sort of over-exaggerated English accent, and then it's really satisfying. A spider. Give it a try, Fergus.
Spider.
No, a spider. A spider.
That's what I said.
I know I'm talking utter rubbish, everyone. I'm just trying to wait to see if these elephants have come down, and I cannot go and look for them because we will almost certainly lose signal, and that will be... Oh, here they come. Oh, I've spotted him. Straight over the top of that termite mound there. Laurie, what I heard was, are there any rocks in this dam? I'm assuming what you meant was, are there any crocs in this dam? Laurie... There are, from time to time, crocodiles in the dam, yes. But at the moment, I haven't seen one today. And did you see the elephants there? Yes, there they are. Right on the end of the lens, making their way down here at a pace slightly slower than that of the Greenland Glacier's movement south. Come on, elephants, we've got no signal there. Can't go and look at you. We might have to try, though. They are a good... I don't know... half a mile, 800 metres or so away. We will also keep an eye out for the crocodilos. Because crocodiles, as I've said before, I quite like, because one is never ambivalent about whether or not they are the villains of the bush or not. You know, you watch them at these crossing points at the Mara, you watch them taking out wildebeest and zebra and Thompson's gazelle, and you feel nothing but sympathy for the gazelles and the antelope. But when a lion kills a wildebeest or a buffalo or a gazelle, there's always a slightly sort of mixed feeling. I mean, you want the lion to eat, but you like the wildebeest or buffalo. But with a crocodile, it's very hard to feel anything other than, well, fear and revulsion often. Hello Tesla, you're aged just 6 years old, and you want to know how long can a hippo live for? Well, I remember from my studying days that a hippopotamus can probably live to about 35 years. So that's quite a long time. It's not a very long time. It's not nearly as long as elephants can live, but it's not a bad time, 35 years or so. Elephants, which hopefully will come down to the water at some stage fairly soon, I can see them moving down now, they can live for up to 60 years out here, and sometimes even more than that. And then we have got some Egyptian gooses over there. And they're getting so big so quickly, you know. Those were tiny little ducklings a little while back. Ellie, you're wondering about the depth of this dam. I would say at the middle of the dam, it's probably about 4 meters deep. Oh, the elephants are running. They're charging across there. Not sure why that's happening. What was I saying? Oh, depth. 4 meters or so multiplied by 3.25 should take you roughly to 12 plus 1, which is 13 feet. I would say about 13 feet at the middle. Yes, they took a lot of offence, those elephants, for some reason. I don't think it was the vehicle behind them, because if it was, they'd be facing it. They're not facing it at all. Anyway, something gave them a fright and they went hurtling down this way. I think those goslings that you were looking at there are probably now about... How old did I say they are? I'd say they're probably about 2 weeks old. Whoa! It's quite a little aerial display from the... Beautiful. Look at it touching the wing, touching the water there. Sorry, I know I'm jumping around a lot with my topics, everybody, but there's so much going on here. Shelley, I think you're wondering about a breeding season for elephants, is that correct? Whether or not there is a breeding season? Shelley, no, they're a-seasonal breeders. They will breed any time of the year. You might find there's a slight peak during the rainy season, but they are largely a-seasonal breeders. Yeah, well, that's much better, Ferg. Look what's coming this way. Hello. Yes, you're a bit closer than the other lot. Here's a bull, everyone. A bull carrying a little piece of young leadwood with him. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming along. Now, could you step out from behind that tree and display yourself? That's it. Thank you. You also need to step out from behind the next tree as well, if you don't mind. That would be great. Keep going. That's it. Thank you very much. Now, this is a question we get asked quite often, and it's probably a slightly disappointing answer, but Ryla, you say, how strong is an elephant? How many pounds can it carry? I don't know how many pounds exactly an elephant can carry. It's quite a few, obviously. You know that you can put huge numbers of people on their back, so you can probably put 10 people on his back quite comfortably. So, you know, that is many pounds. But in terms of how strong they are for their mass, you'll find nothing like as strong as something like a baboon, for example. Because I know this is going to become very irritating, but the others are now having a drink the other side. And there's a few charging down towards him. If you think of something like a baboon or a chimpanzee, which is able to lift its own body mass many times, or even something like a flea, which is immensely powerful for its mass, they proportionately are far stronger than an elephant, far stronger than any other animal, actually, I think. Ants as well. In terms of absolute strength, in other words, the total amount that an animal can lift, well, then I'm sure the elephant must surely be the strongest land animal, but that's more a function of its size. And you'll find the bigger an animal gets, the lower its power to mass ratio becomes. A nice example, for example, would be the leopards and the lions. I think that you'd find a big male lion would struggle to lift something its own size up into a tree, for example, but something like a leopard is absolutely able to do that. And they're a very similar build, but one is much smaller than the other. Human beings are a notable exception. We are pathetic when it comes to the actual strength that we have. Even I don't know, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you will find, although he is quite a strong fellow, compared with even the most lazy, non-exercising chimpanzee, he would pale to insignificance. That's a beautiful picture, isn't that a wonderful shot? That's interesting. Another great question from someone called Eclair. Hello, Eclair. You're wondering about whether or not a male elephant can only breed if he is in must. I would say probably not, but I think you'll find it's unlikely that he would try and breed unless he was in must. He's got to make quite a lot of effort to breed, and I think you'll find that it's probably unlikely that he would even try and breed unless he was in must, but I would say that it's probably not impossible. It's a lovely little picture, that. Beautiful. Laura, you say, do I think the boys ever get lonely? You mean the elephant boys? Laurie, I don't. I don't think they'd live alone if they didn't want to be lonely. I think if they do get lonely, and so I mean they probably do from time to time, they join up with other boys. Sometimes you'll even find a big bull just in a herd. You know, he'll decide that he's maybe needs a bit of company, and he'll just go and join the herd. So although they are alone a lot of the time, much of the time I think that's by choice. You know, there's nothing stopping them being in a herd. They're big enough and tough enough to hold their own. It's not like a big bull can be chased out of a herd. Goose shouting at the one elephant just behind his right back foot. And many of you wondering if Fang is in this herd. I have looked quite carefully with my binoculars and I can see no sign of Fang, I'm afraid. This is not a bad thing. I know that many of you are concerned about Fang, but you must remember that if she had died, there would almost certainly be an enormous concentration of hyenas and buffalo somewhere around, not buffalo, hyenas and vultures around the place, and there isn't. So somebody would have found the carcass. It was impossible to hide an elephant's carcass. No, shame. With that ridiculous little thing now chasing the Egyptian geese. Young bull giving trouble. Very naughty of them. Now, the big bull is just in front of us, and he's having a drink. There he is. He's that big grey thing there. There we are. And I wonder if he's talking to those other elephants. You know, he could be. We think that their communication, their ultrasound travels that far, and quite interestingly they're now moving off. And almost exactly the same time he has sort of decided to, I think, follow them. That's quite interesting. I mean, he did come from that side. Maybe he's not following them. Maybe he's just was coming here for a drink and he'll stick around in the clearing for a while. He's just stopped and he's just smelling what's going on. See his trunk twitched just behind him, just going from side to side. His ears slightly opened as he listens out. And now he carries on. Maybe he was making communication with them. They are moving off now at a rapid rate. I don't think they want anything to do with him. Joshua, you want to know how many elephants there can be in a herd. Joshua, anything from 2 up to 1,000. And I don't mean that facetiously. In this area, it's normally around about 15 animals, or sort of 10 to 15 animals. But, you know, the super herds of Botswana during the dry season that congregate to go towards the water, well, there can be up to 1,000 elephants in those huge herds. And you'll find that that's a lot of smaller herds, so there'll be lots of matriarchs that have brought their herds together to move towards water or grazing or whatever food there is. And that's simply because the food is then very concentrated, and so they need to kind of they need to move together. So although that's only one herd, it's lots of different groups together. Just sniffing from side to side with that nose. And we'll slowly start picking our scent up as he walks across this way, because the wind is blowing from the south. That's beautiful. Just making his gentle ambling way across. And if you ever do come to Africa, it's always a nice idea just to sit at a waterhole like this for the day and see what comes down to drink. Now, Riti, you're wondering about elephant tusks and if they break off if it hurts. Riti, it would be much the same if an elephant's front tusk fell out or broke off. It would be very much the same as you knocking your front teeth out. It would be extremely painful. And elephants with broken tusks, or tusks that have come out, or tusks that have got abscesses, before the wound is healed, they can be very, very, very challenging to be around. They can get very irritated very quickly, and they can be quite cantankerous. And so absolutely you've got to be careful when you've got elephants that have got nasty toothaches. She's just going to wander slowly after that herd. Whether he'll stop and feed or not, I don't know. If he'll keep following them, who knows. Just gentle amble. We will... I'm not sure what we're going to do from here, actually. I'll make a decision just now. Laurie, you say, do elephants ever step on their dragging trunks? Yes, they do, you know. They quite often do they would, if they were not in perfect control of them. So some elephants have a condition called floppy trunk syndrome, which, as it would suggest, means that they have a floppy trunk. It means the muscles don't function quite as well as they should, and the trunk drags on the ground. They can easily stand on their trunks, but it's one of the main reasons that little elephants are born with trunks that don't touch the ground. Because they are uncoordinated, and because it takes a long time to coordinate, you will find that young elephants have got much shorter trunks, precisely because they would walk all over them if they could. And so it's only much later, once they've fully mastered use of the trunk, that it gets long enough to actually touch the ground without them bending their heads down. Alrighty, Tristan has finally managed to get across to the Singapore noodle stands of the Far East. Let's find out if he's found a cheetah.
Well, no James, no cheetahs, no nothing. There's no sign of anything this afternoon. It seems like a day where I'm destined to stare at grass, because that's all I've seen most of the day today. Even our elephants disappeared into the thickets and down to the dam, so at this stage, well, like I say, it's just golden grass everywhere. So just driving around trying to see if we can't find anything somewhere along this area and hope for some sort of a miracle for something to pop out. But it is really quiet. There's been no sign of tracks. There's been no birds to look at on the way here. We've really had a sort of very quiet time of it. which is a little bit frustrating after this morning's drive, because this morning was much of the same, where just drove around staring at very little. So hopefully our luck will change at some point this afternoon. It would be nice to see those two slender, lanky cats strolling through somewhere here. That would definitely make my day. And if not them, quarantine would also be a nice one to find. So hopefully one of them pops out, or combination. Imagine both of them, Seb. That would be nice. But like I say, there's really actually so little going on. There's not even birds to look at this stage, which is strange for Cheetah Plains. Cheetah Plains has normally got quite a nice sort of diverse bird population, and a lot of birds that we don't actually see in the rest of the sort of traverse that we have. So it's always nice to come out here and look at some of those birds, but it seems like everyone's on holiday today. Oh, there's a vehicle, Seb. There's something with a heartbeat. Woohoo! So Brandon, you're wondering why we don't find tigers in the bush. Well, that's because we're in Africa, and Africa does not have tigers. Tigers are from Asia, and so they are in India and other parts of Asia, but not here in Africa. You do not see tigers in Africa that are indigenous. There are populations of tigers in zoos and big cat parks, and there is another place called Philippolis where there is a population of tigers that are there to try and breed them and try and get their numbers up, but they do not naturally occur in Africa. They are not an African species, and therefore we do not see them here. Unfortunately, it would be really nice if we did see them, but I know James luckily saw some at the beginning of the year. He did a little recce trip to India for Safari Live and went and saw some tigers there, so he was very lucky. But here in Africa, alas, no tigers for us. Now this is an area where the cheetah often like to sort of spend time, and so Megan is telling me that Anwar, who's our tech magician who hails from the subcontinent, and India is the closest thing we have to a tiger. Well, hopefully we will not see Anwar prancing around in a tiger onesie around camp stalking people, because that would be a bit on the odd side. Now, you can see everybody is here looking for the cheetah, but alas, there is no sign. Let me say hello to everybody quickly. Hello, Andres.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Lutu. Okay, I'm gonna look. Maybe they went to KMP.
Nothing to the left.
Okay, cool. So Andres is just telling me that he's driven around in Koro, he's driven around all this area, no sign of the cheetahs going that way. So they must still be on Cheetah Plains somewhere. It's now just a matter of finding them in this lovely long grass that we have, which is the equivalent of really finding a needle in a haystack. And so that should be a real treat this afternoon to try and find them. I'm thoroughly looking forward to looking for them in this long grass. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully they will pop out here somewhere. So Machine Gun Nest, you're wondering if cheetahs usually hunt in pairs. Well, if they are coalition members, so if you have two males like what we're looking for this afternoon, then yes, they will hunt in pairs. I've seen these guys using one another to chase down varying descriptions of antelope, so impalas, kudu, zebra, and they'll actually use each other, much like a lion pride would use each other. But you'll find things like females, they'll hunt on their own, and if it's a male by himself, well, they'll hunt on their own too. So it's only if they are coalition partners as males, or sometimes the females when they've got their cubs and they are much older and they're now sort of almost at the age where they're going to leave their mother, then sometimes you'll find that they will then start to help in with the hunts, and the mother will teach them, and you'll end up with this situation. Now the thing is though, is that I'm not 100% sure these cheetah can be here. There's lots of places here where the road is so hard. To see a cheetah track on this is going to be almost impossible. There's also the Kruger National Park boundary right there, which means that they could have potentially crossed into the Kruger Park. I'm going to go and just check along that boundary just to make sure that there isn't any tracks there and see. If not, there is a termite mound inside here where I've seen the brothers lie on top, which is not very visible from the road. In fact, it's invisible from the road. You have to go off-road to go and find it, which I might take a little turn past there and just see if they're maybe not lying on that termite mound and utilizing it as a place to be able to sort of survey this area and this general vicinity. But the fact that there's no tracks on Nkoro side is a good sign, because the roads on Nkoro are very powdery and very soft, and it's easy to find the tracks for the cheetah there. So it means that they must be somewhere in this area. So Vishan, you're wondering if the cheetahs would team up to steal a kill from a leopard. Well, no. I've never seen that happen. I suppose it's possible if you had a coalition of maybe 6 males together or 4 males together, maybe they could sort of outmuscle a young leopard or a female leopard. But in all honesty, I've never seen that take place, and I've never heard of it take place. So it's a possibility that no, it's not. A possibility that yes, they could, but I've never heard of it documented or seen. The thing is a leopard is just too big and too powerful for cheetah, and the cheetahs are wary of leopards because they know the amount of damage a leopard can do to them when they are confronted by them. So you'll find that they tend to rather avoid the leopards than to actually go near them. But it's going to be difficult to find these guys. This grass here is so long in places that if a cheetah is lying down, even with its head up, we are going to really struggle to find it in this. And with the sun being quite warm this afternoon, it's potentially they're under one of these trees, and that's going to make it virtually impossible to find them. So we're going to just try and keep just doing loops around and hope maybe they come out from somewhere and we can actually then just pick them up as they walk around. But I'm going to quickly just check the boundary as well. So kitty kitty bang bang, you want to know whether females will breed with multiple males like what leopards do. Well, yes and no. So yes, they will if there is the opportunity. Hang on a second, something just fell down from here. What was that?
I don't know. Another snake?
I don't know. I thought maybe there was a little lizard or something that just fell from this tree. That's very odd. But there was definitely something that fell from here. I didn't see a bird taking off or anything like that. Sorry, I'll get back to our cheetah question now, but I'm just trying to see if there could potentially be anything here. Whatever it was fairly large. It made quite a rustle in the grass as it landed. Huh, interesting. Maybe it was one of these pods falling, Seb. There are pods on this particular knobthorn, so it could be that it was a pod that fell. But getting back to our cheetahs, that yes, if there are enough males around for them to have multiple male partners, then yes, they will. They will mate with the strongest coalitions and multiple coalitions as that encompass their territory. Here in this particular section of the Sabi Sands, we just don't have many males, and so a female, if they came across those 2 brothers, in all likelihood that would be the only males that they will actually mate with. There's not really any other males to mate with. Now, whether they would mate with both of the brothers would be an interesting one. I have seen a female mate when there was the 4 of them together, and she mated with 2 of the 4 and the other 2 didn't. So whether or not she would mate with both in a situation like what we have now is debatable, but she might if each male sort of decided to go after one another and push each other out and allow for that female to then mate with the other one. So it's possible, but highly unlikely in this situation that there would be multiple different coalitions, because we just don't see multiple coalitions. Right, let's just check here, because they often like to cross in these areas. I see lots of people have driven here, so it's going to make that even harder. But there is a fallen over tree that should be... Where is it now? I think it's on my right hand side here somewhere. Yes, it is in front of me here. So there's a fallen over tree that they often go to. So I'm going to go quickly just check that fallen over tree, because that fallen over tree has got a place where they often defecate on it. And if they defecate on it, then that could potentially mean that, well, we could maybe find some fresh sign that they did defecate. Then we'll know if they were in this area and actually have come this way and maybe crossed into the Kruger Park. So I'm just going to quickly go and check this tree. Ooh, James Richard, you're wondering if I've had a favorite cheetah brother sighting. Sure, I've actually had some really spectacular ones with these cheetah. When there were 4 of them, they were incredible. I once watched them on Nkoro, and this is my favorite sighting that I've had of these 4, was when they were sort of on in Coral the one day. They chased down and managed to bring down a zebra foal. Now it was absolute chaos as they chased the zebra along, and the whole herd was there, and the foal was running for its life, and the stallion came in and tried to chase these 4 males, but because there was 4 of them, they managed to grab it and pull it down. The other one that I had with them was when the 4 of them brought down quite a large kudu female, and there was sort of one hanging from it as this kudu was still running with it, and then another 2 jumped on the back. It really was quite something to watch. It almost looked like a lion pride taking down a buffalo. It was an incredible situation. So those are when there were 4. Since they've been 2, the other day actually, when we had them and they were watching those impala, and they went after the impala, and then the baboons chased it, and it was just the one though that was there, and the baboon chased that cheetah up onto the termite mound. That was quite exhilarating. So those are probably my favorite sightings of these 2. In terms of favorite cheetah sighting in this area, would have to be that hunt on Chitwa airstrip, when that female cheetah and her cub that was about at that stage a year old chased down a steenbok on this airstrip, and they ran literally the length of the airstrip at full speed with not a blade of grass in the way. Now the elephants have moved a whole bunch of logs here, so I'm trying to just get around them. Now, I was talking about just now where the cheetah brothers like to come and scent mark, and this is exactly where we're talking about. There used to be a pile of dung on top here, but I see it's been moved, but this is where they kind of come up and then they look around and check to see what's going on. So I was just coming to see if there isn't maybe some fresh urine or dung that could potentially be there that we could then utilize as a sign that they may have come through this area. Right, we're going to carry on, see if I can't find them in this long grass, and while we do that, I believe James has his wings out and is ready for takeoff.